unintended consequences. With respect to this bill, I think that the urgency on this bill is less because there are so many competing considerations. I think it's more important to think this one through and certainly regulate the vaping industry. But with the rest of this, there's harms and benefits, so we have to weigh that more carefully, I think. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Statements by members, déclarations de députés. Le honorable député de...
The honourable member for La Pointe de l'Île.
Changement.
There was a change.
Okay. Je m'excuse, on a eu un changement.
My apologies. There was a last-minute change. The honourable member for Mirabel. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Quebec's dairy farmers are worried when we talk about free trade because the government does not miss an opportunity to betray them. They have not forgotten that their businesses are the ones the government used as a bargaining chip in its negotiations with Europe. And they still have in mind the smokescreen of compensation exhausted in a week this summer. Mr. Speaker, the Bloc Québécois is worried because the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which we thought dead and buried, has risen from the grave. It's the same government who mocks our producers, who is secretly negotiating with Asia. Everything indicates that Canada is going to conclude an agreement with 10 of the countries next week in a meeting in Vietnam. For Quebecers, Mr. Speaker, it's clear. There is no question about opening up supply management to strangers. We are proud of our producers, and we are pleased to be able to offer high-quality products in our grocery stores without full protection of supply management. When it comes to the TPP, we say no.
Fort Kells.
Mr. Speaker, for more than our 150 years as a nation, Canada has grown and prospered as people from around the world have chosen this land to build better futures for their families. This week, our government moved to ensure that better future with a new strategy for our immigration program. One that's practical and compassionate, one that ensures we'll have new workers to fill the jobs that employers can't fill, the expertise our innovators need to grow new businesses and create new jobs, and the families to strengthen our communities. That's what's helped build Fleetwood Port Kells into the vibrant, diverse, and forward-looking community that we enjoy today. And I'm extending an invitation to everyone at home who wants to keep that momentum going. Check our riding social media channels for links to a discussion on Canada's immigration strategy that's underway now on our Play Speak forum. Together, we'll work toward that future so many of us came to Canada to achieve.
L'honorable député de Charlesbourg.
The honourable member for Charlesbourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, last night we had a confirmation in a report on TVA on the show JE that all of our concerns about the Liberals' bill to legalize marijuana were not only valid, but perfectly reflected the concerns of stakeholders and Canadians. Our border officers, police forces, and provinces have said repeatedly that the Liberal government has not taken their warnings seriously. They are sure that there will be total chaos if they decide to go forward with this bill in its current form. It is shameful for a government to be motivated by a desire to increase taxes and its revenues instead of thinking of the safety of Canadians, money instead of youth, money instead of health, money instead of common sense. Instead of looking for better ways to fight drug trafficking, the Liberals are throwing in the towel and they're looking to justify their lack of bravery with empty rhetoric and pointless platitudes. Here in this House, the Liberals may mock our questions, but outside, the reality of it is waiting for them, and all of Canada is going to pay. Thank you. The honourable member for Vaudreuil-Soulanges. Mr. Speaker, November 25th is the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. This is a day to show our solidarity with millions of women who are victims of violence in Canada and elsewhere.
Speaker, that is incredibly important to my wife and I know that is a sentiment that is shared by all members of my community of Vaudreuil-Soulanges. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, from now until November 25th, I'm inviting all members of my community to learn more about La Passerelle, a shelter supporting women and their children fleeing violence at home in Vaudreuil-Soulanges. J'encourage ceux et celles.
I encourage all of those who can to donate items to La Passerelle through my riding office to help women and mothers who need it most, especially during the holidays. To conclude, Mr. Speaker, I encourage members of my community and all Canadians to learn more online about what we can do to educate young men about the reality of violence against women and to make of them allies in the cause.
Number 4, Vancouver East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This year marks the 14th annual Downtown Eastside Heart of the City Festival in my riding. The festival runs from October 25th until November 5th. Heart of the City highlights the talents of our community through a wonderfully diverse range of multimedia art that connects and speaks to the diversity of life in the downtown east side. This year's theme, Honoring Women on the Downtown East Side, showcases the chamber opera piece Missing and the sound installation Summoning. The theme is especially close to the hearts of our community as we continue to fight for and stand in solidarity with families of the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. The festival offers over 100 events at over 50 venues in our community. Please come and be in awe of these beautiful artistic expressions and talent in my community.
The Honourable Member for Fredericton.
Mr. Speaker, after 18 long years, the St. Thomas Tommies are Atlantic College's Athletic Association Women Soccer champs. In semi-final action last Saturday, our green and gold ran away with a thrilling 2-1 victory over Mount St. Vincent University. With a second-half marker from league scoring champ Nikita McCartney and a hard-fought game winner from Moira Kinney, the Tommies moved on to face King's College in Sunday's final. On the strength of another Kinney game winner and a marvelous shutout performance by goalie Mary Cronin, Stu earned its long-awaited conference title, their first since 1999. As they prepare to battle for a Canadian title next week in Halifax, all of Fredericton and all Stu alumni pass along their congratulations and best of luck to head coach Michelle DeCourcy, assistants John Ryan Morrison, Vanessa Peterson, Amy Whitewood Hughes, herself a member of that 99 banner team, and to all the players. Good luck at Nationals. Go Tommies, go!
The Honourable Member for l'Honorable Député de Beauport-Limoilou.
The Honourable Member for Beauport-Limoilou. Mr. Speaker, in this month of November, we, federal MPs, have the duty and the privilege of saying a few words in this House to highlight the extraordinary devotion to our country of our veterans and our actively serving members who witness day after day from military conflict after military conflict. We must not forget that these same men and women in uniform often serve on Canadian soil, as was recently noted during the unfortunate flooding this spring. We must not only constantly remember their many sacrifices, but also develop legislative measures intended to improve their situation. In this respect, Mr. Speaker, I will not be outdone. In May, I tabled Bill C-357, which intends to correct a bureaucratic and financial injustice affecting our veterans. In this time of remembrance, I ask my colleagues of all parties to take this bill seriously and to help me make it a reality in order to guarantee to our veterans a respectful transition towards civilian life. Thank you.
For Mississauga Lakeshore.
Mr. Speaker, the Rohingya population in Myanmar continues to face unspeakable suffering. Many of my constituents are gravely concerned, and the international community has issued an urgent call to end this humanitarian crisis. Last month, I joined fellow delegates to the Inter-Parliamentary Union's General Assembly in St. Petersburg, Russia, in passing a resolution that sharply denounces the crimes against humanity perpetrated by the Myanmar regime. La persévérance et la pression sont...
The perseverance and pressure are crucial, and I am proud that under the leadership of our Prime Minister, the Minister of Foreign Affairs and the Development International and La Francophonie, the Government of Canada is doing its part. Recently, the Prime Minister appointed Bob Rae as a special envoy to Myanmar, and this week, Canada announced the implementation of the Myanmar Crisis Relief Fund.
Match donations. Advocacy and action must continue, and I call on my colleagues, the government, and all Canadians to do their part and all they can to end the suffering of the Rohingya. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Egmont.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to recognize the contributions of women and men in police services who every day dedicate themselves to ensuring that our communities across the country continue to be safe places for Canadians to live, work and raise families. I am honoured today to recognize one officer in particular, Chief David Poirier of the Summerside Police Department, who as of October of this year has dutifully served the people of Canada for the past 40 years and was awarded a second bar to his Police Exemplary Service Medal from the Governor-General. His service to the community continues even when he is out of uniform, as he has been recognized for his leadership, volunteer work, and community involvement with local organizations including Credit Union Place and the Lions Club. On behalf of myself and the people of Summerside, I would like to thank Chief Poirier and extend to him our sincerest gratitude for his many years of service to the community both on and off duty.
The honourable member for Calgary-Midnapore.
Mr. Speaker, this high-tax Liberal government continues to make life more difficult for Canadians. Now they are attacking people with disabilities. Constituents with type 1 diabetes are being denied the disability tax credit. Treatment can cost up to $15,000 a year, requiring multiple daily blood tests and regular insulin treatments. Without this, diabetics may face amputation, coma, and even death. In 2016, 80% of applications for the tax credit were approved, but now 80% are being rejected. This cash-hungry Liberal government has suddenly decided that people with type 1 diabetes are not actually disabled. Even worse, they are now robbing these people of funds legally put aside in Disability Savings Plan. This is not right. As Deputy Shadow Minister for Health for the official opposition, I'm standing up for the 3.4 million diabetic Canadians, even if the Liberals won't.
The honourable member for St. John's East.
Mr. Speaker, I stand here today to congratulate the Ocean Frontier Institute on a successful first year. A pan-Atlantic Canadian collaboration between Dalhousie University, the University of Prince Edward Island, and Memorial University of Newfoundland. The OFI will help international experts on both sides of the Northwest Atlantic harness the vast potential of our oceans by delivering transformative research. The Institute is a critical node in a vast network of internationally renowned academic and industry-led research centres clustered in my riding of St. John's East. Along with eDNA Tech, NRC, Coasts, Seacorp, the Marine Institute, the Ocean Sciences Centre, the Canadian Healthy Oceans Network, Petroleum Research Newfoundland and Labrador, and our fishery industry partners, OFI is helping Canada establish 5% marine protected areas by the end of this year and 10% by 2020. To OFI, Memorial University of Newfoundland, and your many industry partners, good luck. We are counting on you for the sustainable development of our oceans-based economy. Thank you.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Whitby.
Mr. Speaker, a couple of weekends ago, the Ability Centre in my riding of Whitby awarded the first ever Jim Flaherty Award for Leadership in Accessibility and Inclusion. The award was established to recognize an individual who has made a major contribution to the promotion, development, and advancement of accessibility and inclusion. I'm proud to announce the first recipient of this award was our very own Minister of Public Service and Procurement. As the former Minister of Sport and Person with Disability, she led in the development of a Canada Disability Act to effectively improve programs and services and the lives of Canadians who face significant barriers. This award is given in memory of Jim Flaherty, who over the course of his career worked to support the initiatives for persons with disabilities. On behalf of our government and the Minister, I want to thank his wife Christine, his sons Quinn, Galen, and John, and the Ability Centre for their work, and his sister Nora for continuing his legacy to enrich the lives of people with all ages and abilities. Congratulations.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, Sunday in Quebec is a day of municipal elections. This fall, more than 1,100 municipalities will subject their elected officials to the ultimate test, the judgment of the population. I had the chance to be involved in 3 levels of government, here in Ottawa, in Quebec as a political employee, and in Thetford Mines as mayor for 7 years. I can confirm that being an elected official is an opportunity to be the closest to citizens, and it's an opportunity to act quickly to improve their lives. I received calls on Saturday morning because the streets were covered in snows. Others called at noon because they didn't have anything to eat. We built parks, helped entrepreneurs, and influenced upper levels of government. Mayors, councillors have an essential role in our society because they are the ones who organize our communities on a daily basis. I guarantee you that they don't do that for the money, especially in small cities and villages. These are committed citizens who are passionate, who make a difference. And to all the citizens of Quebec, I say on Sunday, go out, pick the right person to represent you, and go vote. This is the best remedy for potholes and taxes that are too high. Good luck to all candidates. Thank you to those who are leaving. And and welcome to new municipal councillors.
L'honorable député de Ville.
The honourable member for Ville-Marie-le-Sud-Ouest, Île-des-Sœurs. This week, the government revealed Canada's second national action plan on women, peace and security. I would like to thank the individuals, officials, and civil society groups responsible for developing this plan. The Standing Committee on Foreign Affairs and International Development heard that women and girls are disproportionately affected by violence and conflict, and their participation in security efforts and peace initiatives produces better results.
The committee recommended that women, peace and security be a core priority of Canada's foreign policy, and I'm happy to say that recommendation is reflected in this new plan, which touches upon every aspect of our engagement, from our diplomatic efforts and international assistance to the deployment of our armed forces and the RCMP. No society can reach its full potential when half its population is held back, and we are committed to making the involvement of women a priority both at home and abroad.
The honourable member for Drummond. Mr. Speaker, it is with pride that I rise today in the House to highlight the tabling of my motion M146, a motion on National Kindness Day. In so doing, we want the federal government to officially recognize November 13th as being National Kindness Day. The main goal of this process is to help build a fair, open, and respectful society. This citizen initiative by the Quebec Association for the Defense of Retirees and Semi-Retirees' Rights in Centre du Québec, the AQDR, is the result of very hard work. Many members of the association are here on the Hill today, and I would like to make sure that I commend the president of the association, Jacqueline René, the vice president, Mr. Daniel Mayotte, Ms. Louise Rajotte, a passionate supporter, and all stakeholders who have worked in any capacity with the association. Let's hope that we'll be able to work together in order to recognize that November 13th will become National Kindness Day. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For Edmonton, Manning.
Mr. Speaker, 3/4 of the world population live without the absolute freedom to believe and follow their religion. Thankfully, here in Canada, we have the right to practice and worship as we please. According to the Universal Declaration of the Human Rights Code, everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. The right includes freedom to change his religion or belief, and freedom either alone or in community with others and in public or private to manifest his religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship, and observance. Yesterday, when asked about comments that belittle religious belief, the Prime Minister passed on the opportunity to defend the rights of the religious community. It is extremely disappointing that the Prime Minister failed to stand up and support Indigenous peoples, Muslims, Jews, Sikhs, Christians, and other faith groups, all who believe there's a truth in their religion. Respect for diversity includes respect for the diversity of religious beliefs, and the Prime Minister has offended millions of Canadians with his comments yesterday.
The honourable member for Madawaska-Restigouche. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minister of Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship tabled yesterday the 4-year plan on immigration levels in Canada for 2018 to 2020. It will increase the number of permanent residents that Canada accepts every year. As part of the National Francophone Immigration Week, which ends today, I am pleased to see that we have a plan that will promote economic growth and will help counter slower population growth of the workforce and the aging of the population. In Madawaska-Restigouche, this demographic situation is already threatening the economic vitality of my region. In many sectors, our businesses are dealing with a lack of available labor, which is undermining economic growth in many sectors. I would be remiss if I did not highlight the contribution of the Parliamentary Secretary who is working tirelessly to promote immigration in Atlantic Canada. For rural regions that have a mostly Francophone population like ours, there are many issues, but without a doubt, immigration is an essential ingredient for the future of our economy. I will conclude by wishing all Canadians a very happy Movember.
Oral questions. Question orale. The honourable member for Carleton.
When the finance minister announced his tax increases on small businesses and family farmers over the summer, he was meticulous in sheltering his assets from any higher taxes. If we only knew what holdings he had, we would know what taxes he will not raise. But we don't know what holdings he has because he's hiding them in a myriad of numbered companies. Will the finance minister tell us what holdings he's hiding in these numbered companies so Canadians can surmise the small list of taxes he will not raise?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je veux assurer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to assure my honourable colleague that the Minister of Finance, like all members, has always worked with the Ethics Commissioner and to ensure that he's always been transparent with her and that all the rules were followed. The Minister of Finance has always followed the Commissioner's recommendations, and now he said that he will go even farther to continue the important work that he's doing for Canadians.
Well, member for Carleton.
Well, we could all have a little bit more confidence in the truth of that statement if the Finance Minister would just come clean about the holdings he is sheltering in his vast network of numbered companies and trust funds. It took investigative journalists to find out that he was hiding $20 million of holdings in Morneau Chappelle, a financial company that he regulates, and a financial company on which he very carefully avoided imposing any new taxes. Will the Finance Minister tell Canadians what holdings he's hiding in his numbered companies and trust funds so that they can know that he is acting in their interest and not his own?
Yes. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, acting in the interests of Canadians was lowering taxes for 9 million Canadians, was lowering taxes for small businesses from 10.5 to 9%, was helping 300,000 kids to be lifted out of poverty with the Canada Child Benefit, was growing this economy at the fastest pace in the G7, something they never were able to achieve. That's working in the interest of Canadians. That's Conservatives playing politics. That's Liberals working for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Carleton.
Well, Mr. Speaker, first of all, they raised taxes on 87% of middle-class Canadians. Secondly, their child poverty claims were declared even by the Canadian press to be a lot of baloney. And thirdly, while they've raised taxes on everybody else, the Finance Minister was very meticulous in ensuring that none of the tax increases apply to him or Morneau Chappelle. Once again, will he finally reveal what he's hiding in this vast network of numbered companies and trust funds so Canadians can be assured that their finance minister is acting in the public interest, not for his private profit?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, the Finance Minister has always been transparent and forthcoming with the Ethics Commissioner, has always followed the rules and followed her recommendations, and he's announced he'd go even above and beyond. But I understand why they don't want to talk about the economy. They prefer to talk about the Finance Minister, because if we just remember, Mr. Speaker, I'll give him a number, 1.6%. That was the real GDP growth for a decade, the annual real GDP growth for a decade. That was the worst, Mr. Speaker, since Mackenzie King, the worst in 69 years. Compare that to today. Canada is growing the economy at the fastest pace in the G7, 3.7% over last year. That's what we're doing. That's, again, Conservatives playing politics, Liberals working for Canadians.
Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, this is just diversion. The Prime Minister, Cabinet Ministers, Parliamentary Secretaries, and the Liberal caucus are the only people who refuse to admit the obvious truth. The Minister of Finance put himself in a conflict of interest. He paid a fine for having hidden his villa in France, and today he's questioning the word of the Ethics Commissioner. Instead of being complicit in this saga about rich people who take the money and run, Mr. Speaker, can someone in this government stand up to ask the Minister of Finance to reveal what he's hiding in his numbered companies? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minister of Finance has always worked with the Ethics Commissioner. He will continue to do so transparently to ensure that the rules are followed. He's announced that he will go even further, that he will sell off his Morneau Chappelle assets, that he will place the rest of them in a blind trust so that he can continue the important work that he's doing for Canadians and that he's been doing over the last 2 years with an unprecedented growth rate. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Finance has always lived in a world where money can fix any problem. So he thought that he could make this all go away by writing one big check and one small check. Now, the big check was impressive, Mr. Speaker, but it's the small check that is really revealing. It confirms that the Minister of Finance was caught red-handed. So does the Minister of Finance understand that paying $5 million and $200 doesn't clear him? Canadians deserve more transparency from the Minister of Finance. When will he reveal what he's hiding in his numbered companies? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, the institution in charge of preserving the integrity of Parliament and the institution that we respect here is the Ethics Commissioner's Office. The Minister of Finance has always worked with the Commissioner and continues to do so to ensure that all of her recommendations are followed. And he's even gone further in order to ensure the trust of Canadians and to continue the important work that he's doing. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, despite the Liberals' promises to be more open and transparent, what we have here is an information commissioner who is receiving an increasing number of complaints saying that information requests were denied even before Bill C-58 is passed. This is completely unacceptable. This bill isn't even the law in this country right now. Now, the commissioner is proposing amendments to improve the bill. Will the Liberals keep their promise to work with us and the commissioner to improve access to information for real?
The Honourable Minister.
We are the first government in more than 30 years to modernize the Access to Information Act. And as I said in my first speech on Bill C-58, our intention is to raise the bar on openness and transparency. We are open to amendments to improve the bill, and we look forward to working with all members to improve it. But we will continue to raise the bar.
For North Island, Powell River.
Mr. Speaker, the minister keeps repeating that his government is the first in 30 years to make improvements to access to information. But the Information Commissioner was very clear when she said the Liberal C-58 is, quote, regressive, and that the status quo would be better than what the Liberals are proposing. Meaning Stephen Harper's government was more open and accountable than this one. Canadians were promised more accountability and transparency. So will the government work with us and help themselves by actually keeping an election promise?
The Honourable Minister for the Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, we're the first government in 34 years to act to modernize the access to information. In fact, we're the first government to provide the Information Commissioner with real order-making power. We are applying the Act through proactive disclosure to ministers' offices and the Prime Minister's office. Mr. Speaker, we're actually applying the Act to 240 federal entities from the courts to the ports. This is significant advancement. We are raising the bar on transparency and openness of government, and we will continue to do so.
The Honourable Member for North Island, Powell River.
To the Privacy Commissioner, Mr. Speaker, this week when the Privacy Commissioner highlighted that the lack of heavy fines and legal penalties for privacy breaches means companies holding personal information on Canadians are unlikely to do everything they can to make sure data stays safe. The NDP has long advocated for stiffer penalties and to give the Privacy Commissioner actual teeth. As more and more information is in the cloud, we need to put proper legal protections in place. Will this government commit to imposing severe fines on companies that fail to protect consumers' private information?
The Honourable Minister for Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member opposite for her question. As she full well knows, privacy is very important to this government, particularly with respects to the digital economy and the fact that we have more data available. And we want to make sure that data is managed in a way that respects the concerns that consumers may have. That's why we recently published draft regulations for amendments made to the Personal Information Protection and Electronic Documents Act, PIPEDA, and we believe this will empower consumers and encourage businesses to have better security practices, Mr. Speaker. These are the steps we're taking to protect consumers.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, regulatory powers and good intentions are all well and good, but if you really want to force companies to be more cautious and truly protect the privacy of Canadians, you need to focus on what's most important to them, and that is their money. The Privacy Commissioner is saying that heavy fines should be levied against companies like Equifax that have privacy breaches against Canadians. So the question for the minister, will he listen to the Privacy Commissioner's recommendation and truly implement measures that will allow them to fine big companies that create privacy breaches?
The Honourable Minister
of Innovation.
The government is taking action to protect Canadians' privacy. As mentioned by the member opposite, Equifax recently confirmed a cyber attack that resulted in data security breach, and we are obviously working very closely with the Privacy Commissioner. As I mentioned, the Privacy Commissioner understands our government steps that we've taken to strengthen the provisions for consumers. That's why we recently published draft regulation and amendments under PIPEDA. We'll continue to take steps to make sure that consumers and small businesses have their privacy protected, because it's important for our government and it's important as we move forward in this new digital economy.
The honourable member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are doing everything they can to keep their secrets under wraps. The Finance Minister hid details of his offshore companies and assets from the Ethics Commissioner while making decisions about companies he owns and regulates. He got caught, and she fined him. He's in multiple conflicts with legislation, a government loan, and at least one tax treaty. It seems other ministers are in the same mess. When will the Liberals come clean with Canadians? What else are they trying to hide?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Finance Minister, just like any other minister or parliamentarian, has met with the Ethics Commissioner at the very beginning of his mandate to make sure that he follows all the rules and all the recommendations. He's announced to go even above and beyond. But what I can see, Mr. Speaker, is the Conservatives are doing everything they can not to talk about the economy. If we just look back at the decade while they were in power, they had a 1% employment rate growth. That was the worst since the Second World War. Look at the job numbers today, Mr. Speaker. We've added 35,000 jobs in October. That puts us at 500,000 jobs created since we took office, most of them full-time. I get it. They don't want to talk about it. Doesn't mean we shouldn't talk about it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Lakeland.
But, Mr. Speaker, the Finance Minister got fined exactly because he didn't follow the rules. And the Information Commissioner says it's harder to get information out of this government than any ever before. The reality is the Finance Minister used his power to enrich himself and his family's company. He's still hiding other assets within different holding companies, and there are other ministers in the same conflict, but the Liberals won't say who or how many. And the Prime Minister, he says there's nothing wrong. The Liberals talk and talk a lot about sunshine, but why are they still keeping Canadians in the dark?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Finance Minister has always been transparent and forthcoming with the Ethics Commissioner from the very beginning. He's followed all the rules and all of our recommendations, just like any other ministers or parliamentarians is expected to do. Here on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, we respect the work of the Ethics Commissioner, we respect their recommendations, and we'll always work with the Ethics Commissioner to make sure that we live up to the highest standards. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Louis Saint-Laurent. Well, the Finance Minister was so nice with the Ethics Commissioner that he was found guilty and had to pay a fine of $200. Now, the Minister of Finance said that he would place his assets in a blind trust 2 years ago, but he never did. He also said that he didn't control Morneau Chapelle, but he controlled a company that controlled it. So this is just semantics. He forgot to say that he had a villa in France until CBC reminded him. So this minister acts only when he is caught red-handed. And now he's been caught again. Numbered companies. When will the Minister of Finance finally tell the truth to Canadians? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What the Minister of Finance did and has always done is work with the Ethics Commissioner to ensure that her recommendations are respected and to make sure that the rules that govern us are respected. He will now go even further. And the Finance Minister also managed to do something that Mr. Harper never managed to do. And that is make our economy really grow and create more than 500,000 jobs. Today we're looking at 18,000 jobs in Quebec. This is a record that we're proud of, and they can't boast about that. I understand why they don't want to talk about the economy, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't. The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, the law is the law, but for the Minister of Finance, it's more like, do as I say, not as I do. The Conflict of Interest Act exists to prevent inappropriate actions of people who might, for example, have something to hide in numbered companies. In this case, it really seems that the Minister of Finance thinks that he's above the law, as though the law didn't apply to people like him and the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, how many other numbered companies does the Minister of Finance have, and what is he hiding in them? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What is expected of all parliamentarians is that they work with the Ethics Commissioner, who is in charge of preserving the integrity of Parliament. That's what the Minister of Finance has always done and will continue to do. Recently, he met with the Commissioner and said that he would go even further. But if my colleague wants numbers, I can give him some. 1.6%. That's real GDP growth during the decade that they were on this side of the House. That's the worst record since Mackenzie King. On this side, it's much higher, and the GDP was going down in 2015. We thought we might even be going into a recession, but now Canada has the strongest growth among the G7 countries. That's the record of the Finance Minister.
Member for Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes, Brock.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the PBO says growth will drop to 1.6% next year, so that's not exactly Liberal promises. But, Mr. Speaker, during the last election, the Liberal Party released a great literary work of fiction called Real Change. Perhaps a better title would have been Surreal Change. On page 3 of that great masterpiece, the Prime Minister asserts that transparent government is good government. Transparent government, Speaker, means a government open to public scrutiny. So, when will this Finance Minister finally walk the walk and live up to every single election promise and reveal all his personal holdings in every single one of his numbered companies?
The Honourable Minister for the Treasury Board.
Mr. Speaker, I believe the honourable member obviously is interested in Bill C-58, which is our government's landmark legislation to modernise Canada's Access to Information Act. This is really important, Mr. Speaker, because for 30 years governments have talked about modernising access to information. They haven't done it. The Conservatives promised it in 2006. They didn't do anything. In fact, they were the only government in the history of the British Commonwealth to be found in contempt of Parliament for not providing information, Mr. Speaker. Our government is raising the bar after 10 years of darkness under the Conservatives.
Before we go to the next member who's going to ask a question, just out of respect for that member, I just want to remind everyone here that he deserves to hear an answer. So I'll let him ask his question. I'm sure nobody's going to scream to shout out, so he won't be able to hear what comes back. And by the same token, when somebody's asking a question, I'm sure the Honourable Minister or the Parliamentary Secretary want to hear that question asked. The Honourable Member for St. Albert, Edmonton.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Finance misled Canadians by hiding his assets from the Ethics Commissioner. He made millions off the company that he regulates. He broke the law, and now he is hiding from Canadians his assets in multiple numbered companies. What does this minister have to hide? Why won't he disclose his assets?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minister of Finance has nothing to hide. He has always worked with the Ethics Commissioner in a very transparent fashion to ensure that he respects the rules that govern us, that govern all of us, parliamentarians, parliamentary secretaries, and ministers. He's committed to go even further to sell his shares in Morneau Chapelle and to place his assets in a blind trust. Mr. Speaker, this Minister of Finance has been serving the public brilliantly for the last 2 years, and he's accomplished more in 2 years than they did in 10.
Député de Saint-Hyacinthe.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Hyacinthe-Bagot. Mr. Speaker, this week we learned that delays caused by the Phoenix pay system are continuing to pile up. The Liberal government announced that because of this fiasco, it will not be able to respect the planned implementation date of the collective agreements of over 100,000 public servants. Many of them are already affected by Phoenix, and now, in addition, the start of their new agreements is being delayed. This is unacceptable. Can the government at least commit to paying retroactive damages and interest to these employees? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Public Services. We've always worked closely with our partners in public service unions. We respect our federal employees, and we are ensuring that the Phoenix pay system problems will be solved. We have invested enormous sums of money as well as human resources. We've set up satellite centers and done much more to solve this problem, and we will solve it.
The Honourable Member for Regina Louvain.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's true they've invested enormous sums in Phoenix, and this week was the one-year anniversary of this government's self-imposed deadline to fix it. But more than half of public servants are still having pay problems. In fact, 265,000 pay transactions are past due. That's unacceptable. Also because of Phoenix delays, the Liberals won't meet deadlines to negotiate new collective agreements with our public servants. When will the Liberals stop finding excuses and find a solution to the Phoenix boondoggle?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, of course, Mr. Speaker, we take these problems very seriously, and we have invested and taken vast measures to become a government that will resolve the problems associated with the Phoenix pay system. But because the honourable member, I know, shares my belief that we must fix these problems, I'm sure he'll join me in asking one of these Harper cabinet ministers how they could have left us with such a fiasco, and maybe he'll ask the Leader of the Opposition why these Harper senators now want to slink away from the problem that they helped cause.
The honourable member for Sarnia-Lambton.
Well, the Liberals have had 2 years to fix it and have done nothing. Mr. Speaker, let me read you part of a letter that the Minister of Revenue sent to someone with type 1 diabetes who has refused the disability tax credit. The minister writes, the CRA made a change to the questionnaire it sends out to medical practitioners. The questionnaire now sets out more clearly the information CRA needs to determine if an individual meets the DDC criteria. So, Mr. Speaker, when I asked about the 80% who were previously approved and are now being rejected, the minister told this House that no change has been made. But in her letter, she says a change was made. Which is it?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of National Revenue.
Mr. Speaker, I want to assure this House that our government is absolutely committed to ensuring that all Canadians receive the credits and benefits that they're entitled to. We are moving forward with a National Disability Act that will remove barriers and improve access for all Canadians who live with diabetes. We have made the disability tax credit more accessible than ever before, Mr. Speaker. We have simplified the forms required to apply for the credit. We have added nurse practitioners to complete the applications for their patients, and we have just started, Mr. Speaker. We will continue to focus on supporting the most vulnerable in our country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We'll talk about that later. Now, after trying to pull a fast one on business owners with their tax reform, the government wants to claw back money from families with children who have autism and type 1 diabetes. To take back this money, maybe they should just go look in the Minister of Finance's pockets. The Revenue Minister says she doesn't know anything about what happened and that she didn't change the rules. But that's funny because a letter that she signed says that she ignored the advice of doctors since last May. When will the minister take control of her department, and when will she bring back the tax credit for those brave Canadians with incurable illnesses?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
On the contrary, Mr. Speaker, we're the government that has been working extremely hard for the last 2 years to ensure that DTC is accessible for Canadians that are entitled to it. We have done so by simplifying the disability tax credit forms. We have done so by allowing nurse practitioners to certify the DTC forms, by working with medical practitioners to ensure that they have all the resources to assist their patients with DTC, by rehiring nurses at the front line of the review process, Mr. Speaker. We have just started, Mr. Speaker, and let me assure Canadians that we will continue to work hard for the most vulnerable in our country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Simcoe Grey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With respect to insulin therapy, CRA has confirmed that new direction was given at the beginning of May. This unannounced change has resulted in hundreds of type 1 diabetics receiving less money, hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars. As a doctor who's treated patients with diabetes, I'm confident in saying my physician colleagues are better qualified to decide who should be receiving this benefit than CRA bureaucrats. People are suffering, and the minister has the power to make it stop. My simple question is, will the minister immediately issue a directive to her department to revert back to the April 30th policy?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, once again, I want to assure all Canadians that our government is absolutely committed to ensuring that all Canadians receive the credits and benefits that they're entitled to. Let me be clear, the eligibility criteria for DTC in terms of for people with diabetes has not changed. It is also important to recognize that far too many Canadians are struggling and need help, and that is why we're allowing low-income workers to keep more hard-earned money for every paycheck by further enhancing the working income tax benefit by an additional $500 million per year starting in 2019. Mr. Speaker, helping the most vulnerable in this country is our top priority, and we will continue to deliver for them. Thank you.
Now, the honourable member for Simcoe Grey asked a question. I'm sure she was having a hard time hearing the answer, as was I. I just want to remind the honourable member that the honourable member for Simcoe Grey wants to hear the answer. The honourable member for Simcoe Grey.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm also shocked at another revelation. We have a Liberal government that wants to legalize marijuana, and yesterday we learned that the Liberals may be planning to decriminalize all drugs. In my clinic, kids are asking, is it okay to do drugs now? Young Canadians know drugs are bad for them. The Liberal drug policy is damaging to Canadians, especially to Canadian kids. Can the minister confirm that decriminalizing hard drugs is Liberal policy? And by the way, what dangerous drugs are on that list?
Before I go to the parliamentary secretary, I just want to remind everyone what I said about hearing the question, or the answer, also went for hearing the question. It kind of got raucous on both sides, so I just want everybody to take a deep breath. I realize it's Friday, and just listen to each other, and we'll get much further ahead. The honourable member for, the honourable parliamentary secretary.
Speaker, quite frankly, they're making this up. We're in a national public health crisis. And unlike the members opposite, we're bringing forward solutions to deal with this crisis and responding in a way that is comprehensive, compassionate, and evidence-based. And, Mr. Speaker, while we've made it very clear that we plan to legalize, strictly regulate, and restrict access to cannabis in a careful way to keep it out of the hands of children and youth and to stop criminals from profiting, we have been equally clear that we are not considering legalizing any other substances, and we will continue to work with our partners to bring forward innovative solutions to battle the opioid crisis and to save lives. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Drummond. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Standing Committee on Official Languages tabled a report calling on the government to give the Official Languages Commissioner more power to enforce the Act. This suggestion was made by our former Commissioner, Mr. Graham Fraser. It's clear to him and to the committee that we can't simply rely on the goodwill of institutions and Air Canada. The current powers of the Commissioner are clearly insufficient. For once, will the government listen to the committee's recommendations and strengthen the powers of the Commissioner?
The
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We thank the committee and this member for Drummond for their report, and we will study it closely. Official languages are at the very heart of our history and our Canadian identity. Air Canada must respect the letter of the law as well as the law itself. Official languages is a priority for our government. We are working with the Minister of Transport in order to make sure that it is compliant with the official languages legislation. We take this all very seriously. The Honourable Member for Longueuil-Saint-Hubert. Mr. Speaker, yesterday I asked the Minister of Heritage why she had not answered a letter from the Quebec Culture Minister dated September 3rd and asking for details on the Netflix agreement and lack of Francophone content. It was sent exactly 1 month ago and Quebec still hasn't received an answer. Well, guess what, Mr. Speaker? I haven't heard back either. It was up to her press secretary, who later had to tell journalists that she would get to this shortly. Really, let's be clear. Culture and the cultural sector is in a crisis. We have to wake up. This is especially crucial for Quebec. Why is the Quebec Cultural Minister being treated like this? Why is it so hard to answer an email? Is it just that they don't care? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, we have heard the concerns of the Francophone cultural sector, and we want to reassure them that we are making record investments to support Francophone cultural sector, and that's why we have massively invested in arts and culture. More than $2.2 billion. We have reinvested in the FMC in order to support Francophone shows, and we have invested $675 million in Radio-Canada. These are concrete steps, and they will have an impact on the lives of our artists.
For Oak Ridge's Richmond Hill.
Mr. Speaker, the former Conservative government implemented a policy called conditional permanent residency. This policy sponsored partners to live with their sponsor for at least 2 years in order to maintain their status in Canada.
forcing those who were experiencing domestic violence or sexual abuse to stay silent or risk losing their status. This put vulnerable spouses, especially women, at risk of additional abuse and violence. Could the minister update this House on what our government is doing to support newcomer women who were trapped by this Conservative policy?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for Aurora Richmond Hill for her question.
To gender equality and combating gender-based violence. The former Conservative government ignored women's rights groups, they ignored experts, they ignored immigrant women's groups who denounced conditional permanent residency as a wrong-headed policy that trapped abused women in vulnerable relationships. No survivor should ever feel afraid to come forward, and that is why I'm proud and on this side of the House that we fully eliminated conditional permanent residency.
The Honourable Member for Durham.
Mr. Speaker, this government promised a 600-member peacekeeping mission for the United Nations. They've had 3 trips to Mali for reconnaissance. They've spent thousands of hours planning for a mission to Mali. They've consulted both France and U.S. on this mission, but this week we've heard we're only sending some helicopters to Mali. So will the minister confirm to this House today that Mali has been ruled out for Canada's UN peacekeeping mission?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, this government firmly believes in the important role that Canada can play in peacekeeping operations. This week, our government was proud to launch a new and ambitious national action plan for women, peace and security. Canada's feminist foreign policy will enable women and men around the world to play an equal role and have an equal voice and have equal rights when it comes to opportunities for safety and security. We've committed to making the involvement of women a priority in all of Canada's activities in fragile states. The action plan will ensure that gender equality will never be an afterthought. Women's rights are human rights, and we stand by that.
For Durham.
Mr. Speaker, I mentioned Mali 3 or 4 times in my question, but what was absent from that answer was Mali, Mr. Speaker. The past platitudes of this government never matches their present performance. We remember the Canada is back rhetoric, Mr. Speaker. Canada is back to the bottom of UN peacekeepers right now around the world, Mr. Speaker. We're back to cutting the military back to the decade of darkness under the Chrétien government, Mr. Speaker. When will this member stand in this House and let us know where we're sending our troops?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to
Mr. Speaker, Canadians across this country remember the contribution of Lester B. Pearson towards peacekeeping, and Canadians are proud of our history and the role we've played in peacekeeping operations. We know that Canada...
Order. Order. In all respect to the member from Durham, he asked a question. I think he deserves to hear an answer. I'll let the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary continue.
Mr. Speaker, it's important for Canadians to know, even if the opposition doesn't want to hear it, that this government believes firmly in the role that Canada will play in peacekeeping operations. That's why we committed $500 million and 600 troops to re-engage in peacekeeping operations. Our women, peace and security agenda is an important part of that commitment, and we will make sure that women in Canada and around the world play an important role in military and civilian peacekeeping operations.
The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Currently, there are hundreds of members on the Jacques Cartier basis waiting. They're wondering, are they going to Africa or where? Well, this week we learned that 6 helicopters will be sent to Mali. We learned that through the media. Now, they've done 3 reconnaissance missions in Africa. They've been spending 2 years making plans. We still don't know anything. Are we sending troops to Mali, yes or no? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. We were proud to announce an ambitious action plan for gender equality in peacekeeping operations. Our foreign policy, our feminist foreign policy, will allow women around the world to speak with an equal voice, to have equal rights, and to live safely.
OK, c'est beau. Vous pouvez continuer.
Continue. Mr. Speaker, we know that Canadian men and women have an important role to play internationally when it comes to peacekeeping operations. We are there to build a more peaceful world, and we are playing a leadership role.
Carson Warner.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister promised to invest in Canadian infrastructure. However, the Parliamentary Budget Officer said that the Liberals aren't even close to getting the money out the door. Now we learn that Canadians and Canadian taxpayers will be sending $500 million to China for what you ask? For infrastructure projects everywhere else in the world except Canada. Why are the Liberals borrowing more money to send to China instead of building roads and bridges here in Canada?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Infrastructures.
Mr. Speaker, we're proud to have approved more than 4,000 projects since taking office with a combined investment of more than $35 billion. Federal investments are enabling these projects to move forward. As the honourable member would know, the federal contribution is not paid until the expense claims are submitted by our partners. We'll continue to work with our partners to move their priorities forward and provide the flexibility necessary to meet these requirements. Thank you very much.
The honourable member for Vancouver East.
4 temporary foreign workers have won the right to a class action suit against Max and immigration consulting companies owned by Kuldip Bansal. The migrant workers paid as much as $8,500 to Bansal to attain jobs with Max, only to arrive in Canada to find that those jobs did not exist. A FOI revealed that LMIOs were issued for 486 positions for Max. CBSA has investigated this case for 5 years and is recommending that charges be laid. Why has the government not acted on the recommendations of CBSA?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
We've taken concrete steps to improve the temporary foreign workers program, and part of that is strengthening the LMIAs, the labour market impact assessments, that ensure that employers are doing a thorough job of hiring Canadians first and then proving the need for temporary foreign workers. We've also implemented new on-site inspections. We're working on a regime to ensure that every temporary foreign worker has the human dignity and their rights respected. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Saskatoon West.
Mr. Speaker, in the wake of the Chalk River nuclear disaster, 300 brave volunteers committed themselves to cleaning up radioactive material in their community. After several days of tireless effort and maximum exposure to radiation, the military showed up to help finish the job. Those military heroes have since received compensation for radiation exposure, yet nothing has been done for those local heroes who stepped up when their community needed them. Will this government compensate the volunteers who went above and beyond to help after the Chalk River disaster?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The former Atomic Energy of Canada employees that assisted with the cleanup of the NRU reactor in the 1950s played a critical and important role, and we do thank them very much for their service. We understand that those employees and their families are working to have their contributions recognized, and we are aware of the Senate motion brought forward last year. At this time, while there is no program similar to the Atomic Veterans Recognition Program, our department continues to consider the motion and is looking at how we can move forward to recognize the contributions of these individuals. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Calgary, Rocky Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, under this government's watch, the dream of home ownership has been slipping away from thousands of Canadians. High prices, new mortgage rules, and new regulations all make home ownership less affordable. Now media reports say that the Liberal government is planning a new national building code that is going to impose higher costs on new home buyers and existing homeowners as well. When will this government realize that every time they add a new regulation, they increase costs and reduce choices? When is this government going to stop punishing home buyers?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, energy efficiency offers a significant opportunity to help realize Canada's obligations to address climate change while supporting economic growth and the health of Canadians. We are working with our provincial and territorial partners to develop a model code for existing buildings by 2022. This code, which provinces and territories can adopt, will help guide energy efficiency improvements. Investments like our $2 billion low-carbon economy fund will help support provincial and territorial energy efficiency projects that will generate clean growth and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We're working to build a clean energy future. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For Ben Airdrie.
Mr. Speaker, imagine you're a senior citizen. You've worked hard your whole life and you're ready to start the next chapter in retirement. Your kids have moved out and you're an empty nester now, and you go to sell your house and downsize. And now the Liberals want to make you pay more for that, too. New building code requirements will require you to complete costly mandatory renovations when selling your house. So, Mr. Speaker, why do the Liberals want to ruin the retirement plans of middle-class Canadian seniors?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, as I said a moment ago, energy efficiency offers a significant opportunity to help realize Canada's obligations to address climate change while supporting economic growth and the health of Canadians. We are working with our provincial and territorial partners to modernize existing building codes by 2022. Investments like our $2 billion low economy fund will help support provincial and territorial energy efficiency projects that will generate clean growth and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We are working to build a clean energy future by investing in innovation and delivering economic growth and clean jobs while protecting the environment. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Souris.
Mr. Speaker, our previous Conservative government created the Recreational Fisheries Conservation Partnership Program, which improved the habitat of millions of fish. However, the Liberals are not accepting a single new application for this program and are thereby ignoring many worthwhile conservation efforts. This includes projects such as installing an aerator to improve the water quality in Clarny Lake, located in my constituency. Mr. Speaker, will the Liberals commit today to support Canada's recreational fishers and start accepting proposals for this very worthwhile program?
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate the question. I appreciate the opportunity to stand up and share what we're doing for recreational fishers from coast to coast to coast. In fact, I was meeting with recreational fishers just this week, and I was able to share with them that we're investing in coastal restoration. We're putting money into implementing the wild salmon policy. We're making sure that the Cohen Commission recommendations are done. 32 last year, up to 64 out of the 75 now, Mr. Speaker. For far too long, Canadians were tired of a government that took our oceans and waterways for granted, and that's why this government is making sure that we're protecting the resource for the benefit of future generations.
The Honourable Member for Hull Aylmer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The recognition of rights, especially the inherent right to self-government and self-determination, is essential in moving reconciliation forward in Canada. Can the Minister of Crown, Indigenous Relations and Northern Affairs update the House on the concrete steps Canada is taking with its Indigenous partners to advance self-determination and facilitate self-government?
Minister for Crown Indigenous Relations.
Monsieur le Président. Mr. Speaker, we know that good governance and self-determination are the most important factors in economic and social health of a community. Last summer, we signed an agreement on governance with the Cree Nation. This was a nation-to-nation agreement based on partnership and mutual respect and respect for traditional customs. This is very important in the expansion of governance.
Honourable Member for Kitchener-Conestoga.
Mr. Speaker, this Liberal government has taken Canada out of the fight against ISIS. They've eliminated the Office of Religious Freedom, and now we learn that Canada's peacekeeping efforts are at an all-time low. Yet we know that in Iraq today, Christians are still being killed simply for their belief. When will this Liberal government wake up to the plight of Christians in the Middle East and take concrete action towards stopping this genocide?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, this government stands for human rights around the world, and we stand for calling out human rights abuses. Our government takes allegations of all violations of international human rights and international humanitarian law seriously. We strongly condemn any and all action.
I don't know what it is about this parliamentary secretary, but I'm having a hard time hearing him because of the noise. I just want everybody to order. I just want everyone to take a deep breath and allow the parliamentary secretary to give his answer. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We strongly condemn any and all actions that violate international human rights. We've raised concerns directly with the government of Iraq, both in Baghdad and here in Ottawa, as Canada continues to re-engage on the international scene. After 10 dark years, we will make sure that protection of human rights and international law is a priority in all our engagements.
The Honourable Member for Don Valley North.
Mr. Speaker, this past few months, I had a greater opportunity to visit many students and employers in my riding of Don Valley North through the Canada Summer Jobs Program. Even though summer has come to the end and the students are back in the classroom, I know that young Canadians across the country are continuing to look for ways to put their skills to use and learn new ones in the workplace. Can the Minister update this House on other ways we are supporting students gain skills and work experience throughout the school year?
The Honourable Minister of Employment.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank the member from Don Valley North and on his incredible advocacy for the young people in his riding and all across Canada. As a former nuclear chemist, he knows that Canada's prosperity depends on young Canadians getting the skills that they need and the experience that they need to prepare for the jobs of today and tomorrow. We've listened to students, to post-secondary institutions, and that's why we're creating up to 60,000 new paid student work placements over the next 5 years. That's 60,000 more work experiences that will put our young people on the path to success.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Member for Yellowhead.
I rise in this House once again, Mr. Speaker, to ask the Minister of Natural Resources about his plans to stop the pine beetle from attacking our forests. Last year alone, the beetle has increased tenfold, and even though science and research has been done, the beetle has moved from Jasper Park into central Alberta and is heading east. All of Canada's pine forests at risk. We need financial assistance to cull the trees. What is this Liberal government doing to stop this infestation?
Hear, hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Natural Resources.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We understand the critical importance of forestry to the economies of eastern and western Canada as a source of jobs, prosperity and opportunity. We are acutely aware of the threat that forest pests like the mountain pine beetle, emerald ash borer and spruce budworm pose to Canada's forest. In Budget 2016, we invested $87 million to support scientific research and infrastructure, including funding to combat destructive forest pests, such as spruce budworm and mountain pine beetle. We are working closely with our partners, the provinces, universities and industry, all with a common goal of finding a solution to this problem. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, yesterday at the Heritage Committee, the Minister brought out the same old tired lines, the same fallacious arguments in her defence of Netflix privileges. Rather than stand up for Quebec creators, the Minister decided to attack members of Parliament who disagreed with her. Well, I have some news for the Minister of Heritage. Contrary to what she seems to think, giving a tax holiday to Netflix while its competitors pay taxes is called tax policy. Why the special privileges? Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Heritage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We've heard the concerns of the Francophone cultural sector, and we want to reassure them and tell them about the record investments we have made to support Francophone culture. We massively invested in arts and culture, more than $2.2 billion. We reinvested in the CMF to support Francophone television, and we invested $675 million in Radio-Canada. This has had a concrete impact on the lives of our artists. The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Well, once again, the question isn't being answered, but that's nothing new. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to ethics and integrity, the Prime Minister tells us that his ministers are following all the rules. However, the $200 fine for his Minister of Finance tells a different story. The PM's trip to visit the Arcon also proves the opposite. Mr. Speaker, the problem is the framework surrounding these rules. It restricts the ability of the Ethics Commissioner to act rather than try and circumvent the rules. Why will the Prime Minister not accept giving more teeth to the legislation? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I mentioned, the Minister of Finance, as I've said many times, has the greatest respect for the Ethics Commissioner, has always worked transparently with her, has followed her recommendations to ensure that he complies with all the rules governing us, and last week he announced he was going even further by divesting his assets in Morneau-Chapelle and putting all his assets in a blind trust to continue to be able to serve Canadians as he has done so remarkably over the past 2 years. We have the strongest growing economy, 35,000 new jobs this month, including thousands in Quebec since October. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Mirabel. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, under its dairy modernization program, the government seems to be moving at 2 different speeds, top speed for denying applications and very slowly for spending. Last summer, the program was closed after 7 days, and 4 months later, the money for the lucky few who qualified still is not being paid out. And in this case, the minister can't blame Phoenix. Is the minister aware that the cost of materials has spiked over the past 4 months and that his slow pace is jeopardizing projects?
L'honorable.
The Honourable Minister.
Okay. Order. 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 I believe it's. Je crois que c'est l'honorable.
I believe the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Agriculture will be answering the question. Mr. Speaker, our government strongly supports supply management as well as dairy farmers and their families. We are pleased to have invested more than $350 million in the industry in order to modernize the operations of producers and processors and to allow them to innovate. Our government will continue to stand up for our supply management sector.
C'est tout pour aujourd'hui.
That's all for today.
Have a good weekend. Nous avons un appel au règlement.
We have a point of order. The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, during question period, the Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister of Finance, often talked about the track record of the Conservative government. In order to make sure Canadians know what really happened, I'm asking for unanimous consent to table a document from the Government of Canada which indicates that the economic situation in the country has improved since the recession. Canadians are at the head of the G7 countries to come out of this recession.
L'honorable député. That's what it's on. Okay, very good. Est-ce que je suis en train de demander à...
I am asking, one moment, please. Does the honourable member have unanimous consent of the House? No, I don't believe he has. I think we have another point of order.
Okay, the honourable member for Sarnia-Lambton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's the practice of this House that when a member inadvertently misspeaks,